Stevie, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome, Samantha. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So what inspired you to choose this particular play to do your film on?
Well, that's a good question. The Muse of Fire project is lucky in that we've produced now over 80 kids' plays.
Wow.
And there's a wealth of material now to choose from. And so I started getting interested in the idea of adapting one of these kids' plays for the screen just a couple of years ago. And then I was fortunate enough to get a grant from Macaulay, from the Macaulay School.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, to go to USC in Southern California to do a directing intensive. And so I thought, this would be a great opportunity to take one of these kids' plays and make that my project, so I can learn how to direct and work behind the camera more instead of be an actor. This play in particular has so much going on. It's simple, which was also important because a lot of our plays are so fantastical and magical and hyper real and out there and wonderful, which I'm interested in exploring as I learn more about filmmaking and wanting to make these films. But this one had a very simple message, but a very powerful one. It was a darker play.
It is a little darker.
Yeah, it's a bit darker than a lot of the ones we end up with, but I think that's great. I think it's good to sort of explore. It's got a kind of fairy tale-like quality to it, which I think is interesting. And it's okay to explore that kids have this, they love the darkness and the scariness and the fear and the stuff that's kind of overwhelming. And they go right into it without even blinking.
And it's very pure too, the way that they do it. It's very, because they're so young and stuff. Which actually, it brings me to my next question. What kind of were you hoping to accomplish, goals and stuff, and what were you trying to say by making this film? Because it does have a little bit of a darker side to it. It's in this somewhat alternate universe where people are paid to kill nature and test bunnies and capture these poor bunnies and stuff. So what were you hoping to say, or maybe better yet, what was Turk hoping to say when he made the play and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the question is probably better asked to Turk himself.
I'm sure.
However, I think what's interesting about a lot of what we do we honor these kids' thoughts, we honor these kids, whatever's going on with them and however they choose to express their characters and their stories, we really just kind of follow them. But we ask questions of them along the way to try to deepen the story and try to flesh it out a bit. Turk himself was a very nature-loving child.
Right.
So I'm guessing that part of his larger concern is really about what we are doing to the earth.
Absolutely.
And it's a really great thing that a kid sort of is in tune with that.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot more than even that. There's loneliness, there's isolation, there's this simple matter of parents trying to get by, which is a really interesting juxtaposition in this whole piece.
Right.
It's
like, it is in that alternate universe, yet it's still very true to what we all struggle with every day.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I love that kind of magical realism quality about all of the work we do with the Muse of Fire project. There's, you can take kind of any, well, these next plays that are coming up, there are some really out there characters, and they're absolutely magical, but they're completely about the imagination, which is very real.
Right.
And that's an important thing to me, to honor both in our playwrights, our 10, 11, and 12-year-old playwrights, but as well as for us as adults. I feel like this is really important to remember that exercising our imaginations and really embodying and embracing things that seem out there and weird is actually really important, and you can sometimes, by doing that, get to a deeper truth.
Right.
And to a sort of more it speaks a lot, I think, to us as a society about who we are.
Yeah.
Without being too direct and obvious about it, or sort of, pointing fingers or hammering things on the head. I think it actually allows us to both step back, laugh, and then kind of digest and think. And I'm telling you, this kind of work with the theater, and I'm hoping to be able to get to this with more filmmaking as I learn to do it more. But I've never laughed so hard or cried so hard in the same night at the theater as when I've been a part of this kind of work with these kids' plays. And as long as the actors and the directors are really investigating not just the surface, but what's going on underneath. It's very powerful work and a lot of fun.
And that kind of answers my other question. What's it like getting inside these kids' minds to make this film? And it has that magical factor, that imagination that we as adults probably lose a lot. So I'm sure it's very exciting to see what they bring to the table.
Oh, it's amazing. And, just the fact that we, in a way, we as adults, when we work with these guys, we actually get the opportunity, I guess is a good way to say it, to check our own sort of, this is the way things are supposed to be kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Because that's not how they're thinking. These guys are definitely not thinking that way, and that's okay, that's great. And then there's this sort of marriage of like, well, you can be out there and crazy and all over the place, but then there's also a level to which you want to guide the story and the characters and try to sort of make something that makes some degree of sense. And believe me, we've done plays that make absolutely no sense, and so we try hard in that as well. But you do get to a certain place sometimes where you go, well, this is just how it's going to be what it is, and you have to be there. But yeah, I love seeing. The thing that really inspires me, I think, the most about this work is that I think it's the very real thing that the imagination is to a 10 to 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
They're so in tune with that sort of pretend friend thing, and that things can be whatever they want them to be without even, with making no kind of comment or statement or insecurity about it. There's no self-consciousness. Well, until 12 and then 13, then all of a sudden that changes completely. Yeah, it just totally flips. It's like,
you're
wow.
really catching them at a good age then, right before that flip happens. So.
Well, and that's the work. This is Daniel Sklar who literally wrote the book Playmaking with Children, and the 52nd Street Project in New York, where I did a lot of my work. I learned a lot from them. We're replicating essentially their project. We've changed it a little bit. But this is where this work comes from, and that's what they always talk about, is this window. It's like this kind of a magic window, because they're still in tune with their very, very innocent imagination that's very real, but they're starting to articulate ideas and starting to be able to kind of formulate thoughts and how to sort of express it on paper, and that's an amazing point in life. I think we lose that for many, many years.
Absolutely.
And then sort of come back to it.
Absolutely.
That's, I guess, is how I feel now, because I'm walking around like completely in my imagination most of the time,
Most of your background is with acting, so how does it feel to go into directing? This is your first film that you've gotten to the film festival and stuff, so how exciting.
It is, yeah. No, I'm really, really thrilled about it. It's very exciting. Yeah, I've been a professional actor for over 20 years. I did my training at the University of Utah, and then I went to the Shakespeare Theater in Washington, D.C., and I spent 2 seasons with them. Oh, wow. And then from there I went to New York, and I got my agent, and I've been on Broadway, I've been off Broadway, I've been in lots of TV and film and commercials and voiceovers and radio and all kinds of things. So I'm very fortunate. I've been able to learn a ton from my career as an actor, and I continue to act. I have something coming up that I'm going to be shooting in hopefully in a month or so, which I can't talk about. But I continue to work, in other words, as an actor. film industry is huge now in the
Absolutely.
Southeast. So
Which is wonderful.
yeah, well, my agent, that's one of the reasons I moved down here from New York, was my agent in New York opened an office in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so that's been great. So yeah, I started sort of experimenting with some on-camera acting classes and sort of helping coach people for their auditions in the region. And that's, you know, that's been a really cool thing, because I've actually started to help people get work.
Right.
And yeah, I've been very interested in, I've been wanting to make films for a while, like learn how to direct. And you know, this seemed like a great way to be able to do it. Plus the content is so unusual and it's a great challenge. And it was just kind of the perfect timing. I was able to combine these ideas and at least get a little bit of I got thrown to the wolves a lot, you know, in LA trying to make this film, and it's you know, it's definitely a first time, and it's quirky, and it's not a perfect thing at all, and that's fine. It's just it was a great experiment. I was happy to do it, you know, got to get the opportunity. But I'm finding that as a theater director, I'm also a theater director, so I really enjoy working with little moments and little pieces, because I think that's where the magic lies. It's so much not the bigger scope is important, of course, of the story,
Right.
but the idea of just what happens between people in a very intangible and small way is sometimes where really the magic lies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is great about shorts. That's what you can capture with that. It's
Absolutely,
wonderful
and
about
especially a weird short that's
Yeah.
really out, you know, with like, that really requires you to be imaginative
Yeah.
and yet real at the same time when you're both acting and I'm trying to direct, you know, my actors. Luckily, my actors were really excited and willing to go with this idea in LA. You know, they were wonderful.
I was wondering, how is it getting adults to act with a child's material, you know, like that
Yeah.
imagination stuff, and how did you come about getting them? You said they were from LA and
Yeah.
stuff. So.
So one of the ways, well, we set out a casting call, just like
yeah.
every student film does in LA. LA is, you know, huge, so
Right.
people are always trying to work in film in whatever way they can. And student films, especially a USC student film, attracts a lot of quality actors. And you know, in my breakdown, I mean, I said, this is a play based on, you know, an 11-year-old kid wrote this play, but we're going to make it into a film. And so I was very sort of upfront about the whole thing. And I was amazed by the amount of people who came to audition for it.
That's great.
And I had some tough choices, particularly with the character of Peregrine,
He's
who's
wonderful.
the rabbit. He was amazing. That guy was incredible.
He nailed it. It's great.
Yeah, but I mean, I also had another amazing choice that could have worked as well. So
Yeah.
the thing that was wonderful about that, in fact, there was even one guy in LA who contacted me directly, so excited by the project, about the idea of it, and he wasn't able to work with it in his schedule. But anyway, so I don't know. There's something really kind of, I think, if as an adult, if you are in tune with the idea that you know, you can work with your imagination but still keep it real. This isn't children's theater,
Yeah.
and this isn't children's TV. It's not what it is. It's like, it's not what it is at all. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just
No.
that's not our thing. Like, it's funny how many people, you know, call the Muse of Fire project children's theater, but it's not.
No.
It's not at all. It's actually kind of a very adult theater in a way.
And
But
this-
children love it, of course.
Absolutely.
And adults absolutely go crazy when they come see our shows. So yeah, I think there's a kind of permission that this work gives adults.
Yeah.
And I realized that with myself when I started doing this work, that I had never been allowed to be as free on stage with anything.
Yeah.
And when you've given an adult, you know, to play some kind of creature with wings and a dog nose and a tail and it says all kinds of amazing lines, You know, it's the best. And it's like I always say, it's like this mashup of an off-Broadway play and the Muppet movie and Saturday Night Live sketch. It's got this like crazy mashup thing that's so much fun. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that works, is that the adults get the permission to tap into their own imaginations and fly and be really free with it without it being so commercial and right and kind of constrained and I got to act really good and all this stuff. And so that's nice.
Can you tell us a little bit where we can catch it at and stuff, where we can all come check it out and see it, and the next dates for the plays and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. The Musifier Project shows are going to be April 8th and 9th at the downtown Chattanooga Library. Okay. That's on Broad Street and 10th. Mm-hmm. You can get tickets right now, are available. They go really fast. The last shows we did sold out. And so we had 3 shows. There's a 7 o'clock on a Friday. Mm-hmm. There's a Saturday at 3 and a Saturday evening show at 7. At themusifierproject.org or on our Facebook page. Yeah, you can get tickets, and I would recommend getting them right away because they sell out fast. It's the hottest theater show in town for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. And you actually have a workshop at the film festival on Saturday, right?
That's correct.
Are there any more spaces left for it, or are we out of luck?
Well, I have my actors already set for the actual workshop. So okay. I have the actors, and I have no idea how many people are attending in terms of audience. But I'm assuming there are some spaces left. I can't imagine that it's completely sold out, but it'd be nice to know if it was. Yeah, I'd actually be really thrilled if it were.
Awesome, great. Thank you for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Samantha.
Thanks.
It was great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. That's Stevie Ray Dallimore. You can catch his film Sunday the 3rd in the Tennessee Filmmakers Short. Thanks.